Carol Basket killed her husband, whacked her. Can't convince me that it didn't happen. Venom, tigers, they snack him. The Catman, Carol Basket. That's a thing, bro.
Yeah, I can tell, man.
Hello and welcome to the second ever episode of Crunch Time. That's right, we didn't get cancelled. The show where I ask a sports-related question to a panel of 4 contestants who present their answers to me in the form of 1-minute video rants. My name is Liam Crothers, and considering the popularity of shows like Tiger King and the upcoming docu-series The Last Dance featuring Michael Jordan, today I decided to ask our panelists Emil, Jelani, Rain, and Zach, what athlete needs a documentary? Hey, maybe their pitch gets picked up by Netflix. Or maybe not. The rules of the game are simple. Our 4 contestants present their rants to me, and when the episode is over, you, the audience, votes on the winner in the comments section, or on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, links in the description below. But before we get into the rants, let's go over last episode's voting results. Seth, who ranted that Nate Diaz would be the best athlete to quarantine with, got 26% of the vote. Sorry, Seth. Even though you created the show, you can't create W's. Arguing for LeBron James, Rain won with 31% of the vote, thanks to 1,000 Twitter followers. God, Rain, how many more before you're considered an influencer, buddy? Dana, who argued for Serge Ibaka, got 20% of the vote, so I guess no one's hungry enough to go with Serge. Lastly, Jai finished with 23% of the vote, arguing for Floyd Mayweather. Maybe the voters couldn't hear his argument over how loud his coat was. And now, without further ado, let's get into the rants. Our returning champion, Rain Hernandez, will be arguing for Super Bowl 52 champion Michael Kendricks. What do Kendricks and Martha Stewart have in common? If you don't know, you're about to find out.
This week, I won't try to woo you with my nice flow and sense of humor, but this time around, with one hell of an argument. This documentary will take place in 2018, following an NFL superstar who is known as one of the league's most feared linebackers finding himself in trouble with the law. Meet Michael Kendricks, an NFL superstar who is convicted of insider trading, but still is playing the sport that he loves. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why in the world would I want to watch a documentary about an NFL player who's been arrested? We see that stuff all the time. But here's the difference. It's now 2020, 2 years since Kendrick's sentence, and yet he's still playing the sport that he loves to this day. But could you imagine the stress of dealing with knowing that you're going to prison, but don't know what day it actually is, all while playing in the NFL? The NFL. This has ESPN 30 for 30 written all over it.
Thanks, Rain. Between you and me, I was kinda hoping that what Michael Kendricks and Martha Stewart had in common was that they both cook a mean souffle. But beggars can't be choosers, now can we? Next up is Jelani Reed, who will be arguing on the part of 7-time Pro Bowler Antonio Brown. So Jelani, if the Bentley stays, you must go and make your case.
We need a documentary on Antonio Brown. Not just because my name is Jelani Antonio, or JA for short, and I know you didn't know that, but imagine being a perennial All-Pro, Pro Bowler, and a future Hall of Famer who put up amazing numbers, to becoming a guy who would just lash out at former teammates for no reason, and former coaches. A guy who became a man who wanted to punch his GM. Oh, don't forget, a black man who had a blonde mustache, and going from team to team to team, and expressing his displeasure. Even when he got to the Patriots, they told him to just be quiet for 1 day or even 2 days to get himself a bonus. He didn't do that. He went on his phone, which the Patriots said not to go on, and he lashed out at an accuser of sexual assault. Antonio Brown went from here, and now he's here. He used to say business is booming, but now business is dooming.
Thanks, Jelani. I think you made some excellent points for Antonio Brown getting his own documentary. Now, you are a Cowboys fan, but we're not going to hold that against you. Right? Regardless, it's halftime. This halftime is brought to you by Outside Baseball, the podcast where MLB fanatic Drew Frank tries to catch up his friend Seth Nefsky on 3 years of missed baseball. Seth, what were you doing with your summers, man? I mean, you couldn't have been doing this show. Regardless, I think you're going to like the podcast. After all, he did create this show. Who wrote this?
So I think the last time Chrissy D was getting, some good bats, he was on the ADD meds, correct?
Yeah, I believe so. It seems like that could be a factor, but there's just huge gaps in his swing. He's not picking up the breaking ball. He's looked good in spring.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's got 4 homers, I think. So take it for what you will. Maybe a candidate for comeback player of the year if he can put up 20, 30 home runs. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I understand AD. I was on AD meds for a couple. Yeah, it just made me very mad the entire time. I got a rage inside me. I was on it for probably like 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
Basically, I went to a psychologist, right, to make sure everything's good up there, right? Mm-hmm. And I didn't pay attention to anything he said. So he's like, "You're probably going to need to go on ADD meds."
Yeah.
Tried that out, and I basically realized what it did for me. It was basically just made me mad at everyone all the time. So my parents are like, "Let's get him off this."
Yeah.
And he won't pay attention, but at least he'll be having a great time.
All right. Okay. And how could you hit the breaking ball when you're on ADD meds?
Honestly, a bit better.
Okay. Hey,
yeah,
well,
this
there you
was
go.
during the baseball season. And yeah.
Anecdotal research.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have Emil Riga, arguing for the part of Bayern Munich footballer Alphonso Davies. Take it away, Emil.
When you Google greatest Canadian soccer player of all time, the first person that shows up is 19-year-old Alphonso Davies, and he still does not have an official documentary. Born in Ghana from Liberian parents who were fleeing the Civil War, he settled in Edmonton at just 5 years old, where 10 years later he'd be the youngest ever UCL player with the Whitecaps, and shortly after, second youngest ever MLS player. On his way out of the MLS, he broke the transfer record on his way to Bayern Munich, where he's now a starter on one of the best teams in the world, and he's putting in man-of-the-match performances in the Champions League, which is just insane for his age. But other than being the face of Canadian soccer and the future of it, he's also a pioneer in the TikToking game amongst professional athletes. He was one of the first to do it. He was putting in work before anyone else, and he's still one of the best out there. So I think just sitting down with Fonzie and getting to know about his journey, the attention he's getting in the Canadian soccer world, and most of all, the method behind the madness that is all of these TikToks would be really interesting for not only myself, but many other viewers who are just looking for a good story in the sports world.
Thanks, Emil. Alphonso Davies is definitely an up-and-coming superstar in that Bayern Munich system. UC Santa Cruz. Go Banana Slugs! Last but not least, we have Zach Finch, who will be arguing in favor of not an athlete or even a person, but UP, the mascot for the Montreal Canadiens and at one point the Montreal Expos. It looks like Zach is thinking outside the box, but inside the costume.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but for me, athletes getting their own documentary just seems a little oversaturated at this point. So what I thought would make things a lot more interesting is getting a mascot to get their own documentary. And which better mascot to start that with than my good friend Yuppie? You see, Yuppie over here has represented 2 teams, being the Expos and the Montreal Canadiens, which you can't really think of another mascot off the top of your head who's done that. He's also the best at his craft, as when he was with the Expos, he got ejected because LA Dodgers manager Tommy Lasorda was not having any of his antics. He wears an exclamation point because he doesn't need to wear a number because you already know who he is. He's only one of 3 mascots to be featured in a display in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And if I'm correct, Yuppie, you're entering the Mascot Hall of Fame in June of this year. And let me tell you one more thing. Negotiations were held once he left the Expos, including 10 teams before he signed with the Habs. So if that's not the best mascot ever, I don't know what is, and that's why Yuppie deserves his own documentary.
Thanks, Zach. Maybe when this whole COVID-19 thing ends, you can go on tour. Opening up for Jeff Dunham. Well, that's it for Crunch Time. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. More importantly, make sure you vote for the episode winner, either in the comments or on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. You can follow all of our ranters on Twitter with links in the description below. Once again, don't forget to listen to Outside Baseball. My name is Liam Crothers, and thank you for watching Crunch Time.